Good morning, everyone. It's 12/31/2020. This year is finally coming to a close, and I wanted to take a quick second to kind of go over what all's happened this year from a Jeeping perspective. It all started this year with a ride out to Bankhead on January 5th. We were just taking every little side trail we could possibly find, and we found one that took us down into kind of a little valley, and at the bottom it was pretty squishy. Just for grins, I wanted to test out my tires, see how well they worked in the mud, and it definitely didn't work. I got stuck. I knew I would. I mean, I really did. So I buried it up pretty good, and my wife was very happy about that. Very happy. But hey, you know what? I got to use my winch. It's the first time I'd used it for self-recovery. That was pretty exciting. So my buddy Creel got out and helped me out, and we got unstuck. That's kind of how the whole year started. Kind of set the tone, if you will. On January 25th, we went back to Bankhead with a local group called Cullman County Wranglers. And we were riding around a little bit, but there was nothing exciting really. It was mostly just riding around on the dirt roads. And some days that's fine. Some days you want something a little more exciting. March 22nd. March 22nd was a day that will live in infamy. It's one of those experiences that you will talk about for years and years and years to come. We went riding in Wheeler National Wildlife Refuge a little bit, and we said, hey, let's go check out County Line Road, which is a place that we had gone late last year with a group, and it was awesome. I mean, there was like, you get down to the bottom, and there's a really nice creek that you get to drive down the middle of, and once I told my wife and kids, I said, guys, let's go, because it's going to be really fun. You get to play in the water and everything else. So we get down there, and they had logged it all. So it's very shocking. We were like, oh no, what have they done? This place used to be so beautiful. Now it's all logged, which that's, again, a side effect of being here in Alabama. It happens all the time. So we get down there, my wife says, no, don't do it. Don't do it. It looks sketchy. Don't do it. And I said, we can make it. We can make it. We got this. So we get down through there, and it was pretty sketchy getting through some of the thick mud or whatever to get to the actual creek part. We made it. There was some hidden logs underneath the water that were pretty sketchy, but we made it. And so we got to get out. We got to play in the water, and it was a lot of fun. Kids loved it. My wife even got out and was walking around in it. She liked it. So then there was the question of, do we keep going forward, or do we go back the way we came out, or the way we came in, which was downhill on a pretty decent slope that was wet and muddy, trees and all kind of sketchiness everywhere. So my wife was definitely not keen on that idea. And forward looked like the huge logging trucks had been out there, and so it was just this mud bog of nasty, squishy ooh. So I talked to Creel about it, and I said, man, you want to try it? You want to go back? He said, we can make it. Let's do it. Let's go for it. And I said, dude, we're going to have to hit it really fast, really hard, and hopefully, because there's no trees. It was out there where there was a field, and they had logged, of course, so there was nothing. There was nothing to win. I said, what if we get stuck? Well, you've got your action tracks. Yeah, but I mean, I've never used them before, so I don't know. I mean, I see them in videos, sure. So we just said, YOLO. I said, we can't stop, right? So we hit it fast, we hit it hard, and we got a decent amount of ways. I mean, I guess a good 300-400 feet, and I stopped moving. And for whatever reason, Creel in his XJ was right behind me. And instead of waiting to see if I made it all the way, he followed right behind me. We both talked about it in hindsight. That was not the greatest idea. I got stuck, and I'm watching him in my rearview mirror. And I'm like, oh no, here he comes. Oh no. I mean, I can't move, right? So what's he going to do? Even if he does make it, I'm in the way. So he's got to stop. So sure enough, he got stuck. We went over the radio and was like, well, now what? Because we got to try to figure out how to get out of here. I got out. I got my shovel. I started shoveling mud. This mud is the thick clay soaked in water, so it's super heavy. Every shovelful felt like it weighed 30 pounds. It was awful. So I got my action tracks out, put those under the tires, and tried to use that. And it was too far uphill. If it was more of a slant, then sure, I would have probably been able to pull out of it. But I was buried. So I took my winch out. I said, well, look, there is a giant pile of logs. I mean, these logs were as big around as the Jeep, stacked over about 120 feet, something like that, away from us. And I said, we ought to be able to hook up to one of those logs maybe. So we got the winch out, pulled it all the way out there, and didn't have enough cable. So we went back, got my straps, got all my straps hooked up. I had a tree saver, I had a snatch rope, I had something else, and still wasn't far enough. So Creel had to go get his tree saver out. I don't know, it ended up being this long chain of stuff that was probably very unsafe and an awful idea. So anyway, took it, wrapped around the end of one of these giant logs and started pulling. While we moved 3 feet, it was working, right? And then it stopped because instead of pulling the Jeep forward, we were actually dragging this log off the stack. I can't stress to you how big this log was. Anyway, so I'm pulling the entire log off the stack. I saw, okay, well, if I pull it off the stack and it kind of falls and wedges, then maybe, when it wedges, it'll catch and we can keep going. That is what happened. It slid off, it stuck in the ground, it wedged. We moved another 2 feet. I'm like, all right, we're making progress. And then the log broke loose and started sliding to where I'm like, oh no. So at some point in time, Creel hooked up. He actually winched to my back bumper so that we could kind of try to pull both of us at the same time. So after 2 hours, we finally got unstuck. We wound up the tree, it started sliding or whatever, and eventually it caught again, and I was able to pull myself out with the winch. Once I got pulled out, I drove up onto the field and came around, and so I was up on kind of a dry, grassy area, and then ran my winch down to pull Creel out kind of sideways, and that worked great. I mean, it worked like, a normal winching experience instead of all the insanity we'd been doing. So got him freed, and we were putting everything up. I'd already pulled my winch in, got it wound back up. We were working on putting the straps in, and we see this other guy in a JK Rubicon coming down the water, and we were like, oh no, don't do it. And he did it. He hit it pretty hard. He did just like we did. Really fast, hard, go. Oh, stuck. So we had to get the winch out again and hook back up to him. He didn't even have a winch, so I don't know what he was gonna do if he got stuck. I hooked to him and I pulled that guy out too. We got finished with that. We had so much mud caked everywhere. I mean, we had it in the brake rotors. Creel's differential, you couldn't even tell there was a differential there. I mean, it was completely covered in mud. It was awful. So that was a very crazy experience in March that we did. March 29th, we went to Tate Cove. First time we'd ever been there. Creel was in his XJ, I was in the jail, of course, and we had another buddy of ours in a Toyota Tundra. So we get, halfway through the trail, and Creel's fuel pump in the XJ that he had just replaced started acting up. It was whining, making all kinds of sounds, whatever. So we pulled over, let it breathe a little bit, and got back in, got, maybe half a mile down the trail, and it went completely out. He was without fuel. So we had to get Jay in the Tundra to drive all the way back out. I stayed there with Creel to help get the old fuel pump out. And he had to drive all the way out to the nearest O'Reilly, which was like an hour's drive away. 2 hours go by, and we finally get the new fuel pump back, get it installed there on the trail. That was an interesting experience. Got him back functional, and we drove on down to the cave. There's a couple of caves there at Tate Cove that are awesome. One is full of rocks and the other one is pretty wide open. If you ever get the opportunity, go check out Tate Cove. April 25th, went to Wheeler, just riding around. April 26th, we went riding with a guy from one of our local groups on Facebook and showed him kind of some places to go. He was one of those that really liked mud, so we took him to a couple of places that were muddy. There's a place here in Hansville called Mud Creek, and it's called that for a reason. It's pretty nasty. May 3rd, went to Wheeler, Doorless. That was fun. It's always fun to run around naked. May 29th, we went night riding. We went to like a tiny little trail, like literally like a half-mile long trail. Just something to do. It's got one little flexi spot in it. It's pretty fun. Swann Bridge on May 30th, which that again is a tiny little trail out in Cleveland. I mean, it's a fun little ride. It's only like a half mile. It takes you out to a little beach on the river there. May 31st, we went to Dry Creek with my brother and his wife and Creel and a guy that rides with us a lot, Jeff. We went with a group. Jeff had been there before, but Creel and I had never been. And my brother, it's the first time he had been riding in a Jeep since we were kids, when we used to ride with my dad in his CJ. That was quite an experience. Dry Creek, it's one of my absolute favorite places I've ever been, including out west. I mean, there's so many creek crossings. It's fantastic. I don't know why that is, but it's so fun. June 18th was Florida Jeep Jam, where we got to go. Me and Creel went. He took his JK. He had gotten a JK by then, and I had paid to go on the dunes. So he jumped in the Jeep with me, and we went riding the dunes, and that was pretty cool. That's the first time I'd been on any sort of sand, really, in Panama City. July 5th, we went back to Dry Creek, because Dry Creek's awesome. July 11th, we went to Castle Heights. I posted a video about that experience. That was interesting. We met up with some people just randomly on the trail. They were like, hey guys, y'all want to ride with us? And we were like, cool, yeah, we'll go. So like a 2-3 hour trip that we had planned turned into 6 hours because we had no idea where we were going, and we got way back in the woods, and it was a very interesting experience. You need to check that video out if you haven't seen it yet. July 19th, we went to Little River Canyon. If you've never been to Little River Canyon, it is really cool. Again, there's 2 or 3 creek crossings there. Creek is not the word. River crossings. It's very wide, and it's very nice because it's completely rock bottom. So you don't have to worry about, any getting stuck or any of that kind of stuff. There's some places that are pretty deep. September 13th, we went up to Iron Gap, and we were attempting to find the way all the way through from the Alabama side out the Tennessee side. We didn't know where we were going. We'd never been that way before, and we ran into a guy that was riding with a group, and we said, hey, do you know how to get out on the Tennessee side? And the guy gave us some instructions.
Like there's a bunch of little rock crawling places in that creek. You'll see a trail that shoots up the mountain. And it divides off. At first divide, you go up to the right.
Alright.
And then it's a long trail. And you come out in the damn boom.
How much like this is it?
This is probably a good bit.
Is it?
It's probably like a couple half-mile sections.
And they were kind of hard to follow. So we went riding around trying to follow this guy's directions, and it's much, much more difficult to find than you would think. We got turned around, and we had to backtrack umpteen times. We finally found it, and unfortunately we got to a certain point, and it gets really rocky. We got to that point and said, we'll do it another day. September 19th, Talladega. I just posted a video about this experience. Check that one out. October 25th, we went back to Bankhead, and this time, again, we're just riding around trying to find a trail, and we get to the end of one road, and it looks like somebody has been going off kind of at the end of the road out into the woods. So we go and we walked the trail quite a ways down through there, and I said, well, this ain't too bad. So let's do it. It took us to a creek crossing. Solid rock bottom, pretty easy to do. We had to struggle a little bit to get up on the other side. Like the bank was pretty steep. Creel goosed it pretty good and got over it. And Jeff let her eat. So once we got up to the top, we had to clear out a tree. There was a tree across the road. And we were giving Creel hell about his tiny little chainsaw that he just bought.
Jeff, the man over there.
You gonna cut it again, or you want me to just move it?
What are you gonna do? You want to break it?
Let me just break it.
Man, my chainsaw like a bitch.
Let me move this right and log you cut.
After we got the tree cleared out of the way, we kept going. We ran into another tree. We had to go around because it was giant. And we were, again, giving Creel hell, saying, there's no way you're going to be able to cut through that. And he started, but before he got going, I went around the tree. And turns out that when we got to the end, there was no trail anymore. It just kind of disappeared. So we had to kind of plow through some brush and whatever to get to another trail that I saw on my Gaia app. So we got to that, and it was an actual trail that had been traveled a little bit. So we went to the end of that, and it kind of dead-ended, so we turned around and we went back.
Just keep going. You're good.
And that road took us to like a gate that people had been going around, and so it turns out that we had gone somewhere that we wasn't supposed to. So it's part of riding at Bankhead. We try to avoid that kind of thing, but sometimes like that, we didn't know that we weren't supposed to be there. So
there you go.
Unfortunate. November 1st, we went back to Tate Cove. They had graded everything, I guess, in preparation for hunting season. But that time we got to go down to the cave with the kids, and we spent a whole lot of time exploring the caves this time. That was kind of the main reason of the trip. November 8th, we went down to Gardendale. We had seen on Facebook some people riding the power lines.
There it goes.
So we went down there, checked that out. And I mean, it was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good experience, but I wouldn't ride there again probably. December 13th, we went back to Swann Bridge just to test out Creel's XJ on 35s. Man, it did great. The XJ is a beast. I went and got myself stuck in the sand and wound up having to winch myself out. The bad thing about that was that there was no one feeding the line. So making sure that it kind of does the back and forth motion like it's supposed to. So all of it kind of bunched up on one side, and it bunched up to the point where it had completely just maxed out the drum. And I thought I had ruined my 12,000 pound Warren winch. I mean, it was a very scary moment. Luckily, I hooked the winch up to Creel's JK, and he kind of yanked on it with the Jeep, and it got it pulled loose, thankfully, but I'm probably gonna have to get a new rope. The last ride we did was December 27th, which was again to Dry Creek. And this time I went to get a good film put together of the experience and what riding Dry Creek is like. So I'm gonna be posting that at some point in time in the near future. That was my year jeeping in review. I hope to bring a lot more to the table next year. I've got a DJI Osmo Action ordered for my birthday, so I should be able to get a lot more video. Creel's going to be using his drone a lot more. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. I sincerely appreciate it, and I wish you the best. Happy New Year.